startup named Changke. Dubagi.
What's your name, sir?
Chito.
Chito. Okay, what's your question?
My question is about 996 culture. So anyone could answer. So in a what's this in a development world, so like software or something like that, those what's this developers are complaining about 996. So my question is, how would we incorporate that? Because in Filipino, you know that we are not really used to that, and that's all my question.
Okay, so actually, I want to share what we do in the company. So if Alibaba is 996, in Instagrams, what we do is 183. We go to work 1 p.m., we leave work 8 p.m. in the office. You're only required to go to the office physically 3 times, Tuesday to Thursday. Reason behind is 8 to 10 a.m. super traffic, useless. Monday, super traffic, useless. Friday, super traffic, useless. Take all the traffic hours, you get a happier people, but you also stretch efficiency, because if you calculate the time in terms of traffic eats up around 30-40% of your time. You go Makati to Makati, that's 30 minutes. You go Manila to Palawan, that's 1 hour. Oh my, I want to go to the beach. So I guess you don't have to force employees to be in the office or even count the hours, but you can incorporate that kind of same mentality with the 996 by giving them freedom and integrating responsibility. So what we do, we don't count the hours, we look at the output of the people. And then another thing that will help is make sure that everyone in your team knows how important the mission of the company is. Because if it's just like, hey, we're gonna do this thing so that we can make 1 million, they won't care. Like in their minds, like, okay, you're just the person that's gonna benefit. But if you tell them, and if you really do it, of course, people will know if you're just fooling around. So you really need to find that deeper purpose. If you tell them that, hey, what we're doing today, Philippines has only 1 million investors, entrepreneurs are not that developed yet. Everything that we do will ripple effect to the next generation of Filipinos, and that will stick to their minds, to their heart, and that will create a better mentality than the 996, I think.
So when's the best time to give feedback ba? Weekly, monthly, or after a project, or kung kailan mo lang feel?
In our company, so we have this regular evaluation of the employees. So it depends. We do it quarterly for the evaluation. And then, say for example, it would also be best, say for example, if you're doing team building as well, or strategic planning, that can be incorporated also. But for us, we do it on a quarterly basis for the feedback. But you can do it mini, like say for example, because the way I do it with our company, I also put personal communication with our staff. It's not all about work for me. I make sure that I ask about their families, how's their day, or what are their challenges. So I know also, because how to, like say for example, if one person suddenly is a great employee, and then suddenly his performance is not leveling out, that means he might be facing some challenges, whether personal or at work. So I make sure that I ask them as well, just to know how they are. So I guess that's very important also in developing a healthy relationship with an employee.
When you mentioned earlier that you made the pitch with the Alibaba investors, what were your key takeaways there? What were your learning? Because when you pitch, you basically dissect your company and your valuation. So what were the feedback that you received?
So Steve, would you like to answer that?
When I first asked them, are you interested in the Philippines? So pag hindi, next. No? So namimili rin tayo. No, because that's one, I like to share a little bit of our mindset. alam natin, nakwento nga lahat, Philippines VCs or yung VC market natin dito are not yet really matured. No? So for me, I look at it as an opportunity to build your startup, bootstrapping it. Why? Kasi wala yung mga major competitors mo. No? So we were able to grow because all the Chinese companies na competitor namin are not going to China, so we can grow, be dominant here in the Philippines. From China to go to Philippines, so we can be dominant here in the Philippines. So I look at as an opportunity na, oh, buti na lang. Hindi pa masyadong matured yung VC market. Kasi I have the opportunity to grow my business to a size na hindi ko kailangan na lumaban na, because if it's a very right, there's just one company that has so much money that just burn cash and you cannot compete, and then they'll just, iwan ka na sa So, but because of this opportunity also as a VC, doon sa is we can look at us, wala akong masyadong competitor because, there's not much capital being involved. So, yun ring opportunity for us to grow our company here in the Philippines. Now, in terms of the best way to, sa akin, when I was raising my funds, was the best way is you need to have, if you build your business right, you will have in a position of strength so that hindi ka mabubuli ng mga VCs. Kumbaga. Oh, naiintindihan niyo. Parang we're giving them the opportunity that we're growing, so you have to invest in us now or you'll be left behind. Parang ganun ang mindset. Yeah. So,
when it comes to getting funding, let's say for example, if I'm not mistaken, Jack Ma has only like 7% left in terms of ownership, and he got some from Goldman Sachs, and he also got some from Yahoo and SoftBank. And I remember there was even a moment where he said, "Please don't take this away from me because I need to feel like an entrepreneur." Because majority of the funding, majority of the VCs are actually getting the shares of the organization. So what are the best tips? I think majority of the startup people in the industry are also based looking for funding. What are your tips? Where do you draw the line between having enough shares to feel like a founder, to feel like a business person, and managing venture capitalists as well?
So for me naman, it's for example, you're trying to raise money, right? So you always get angels. So angels to fund you, family and friends. Usually you take out either a convertible note or a safe. So what's the difference between a convertible note and a safe? Convertible note is basically, because when you're starting up, you basically don't know what's your valuation. So how do you measure your valuation right now? You either do a comps. A comps is basically comparable. How much other startups raised. So if for us maybe if our competitor A, B, C raised let's say an X amount, $1 million for angel, seed round for 5 million, then Series A at 10 million, then you will basically able to compare how your startup's gonna be evaluated. That's for the convertible note. But of course, usually almost all investors will say, why are you valuing your company at 100 million when you don't have anything to start with? Second is safe. Safe is basically you're trying to grow your business. They will come in as an investor, put in money, and when your startup maybe at a duration of 18 months, you were able to get that growth, then they will start evaluating your company. So they will say, okay, you're worth 100 million, and that's our share of what we put in. So that's how we started with our company as well.
So I'll just share on a financial market perspective since that's what we're doing. So I share the same sentiments that I don't want to get diluted early game, because if you raise money here, angel round, they're going to eat you 30-40% for just a few hundred thousands of USD. Versus in the region, the seed rounds there are 500 to 1M at times. So what we did, first, we did not take salary as founders. So that will help. So in the balance sheet, it's just the employees. So at least we were able to contribute. And then as much as possible, find that revenue source. So for example, us, Example, if you're a good developer, a good business coach, have these sidelines where you can have that early game built up in your startup. So at least when you talk to the VC, you're not on a negative position. Because as a VC, if I was the VC and you're bleeding 1 million per month, he's gonna eat you up. He's just gonna say, you're gonna die in 6 months. I'm gonna buy 50% of your company for just a few millions. So try your best to have that revenue sustainability. And then what we did, we raised convertible notes. So we didn't sell any equity yet. 6% per annum, example. And then what we did in the convertible notes is, usually in the regular startup scene, they have a ceiling valuation. So example, if the VC is really strict or keen, he will say that, okay, let's put on the convertible note that the ceiling valuation of the convertible is, let's say, 100 million. Meaning, if your startup goes to 500M valuation, since there's a ceiling in place, he'll be able to convert that convertible at 100M, not at the 500M potential. So it protects the investor. But if you don't look for professional VCs, example, in the Philippines, there are lots of people getting scammed, right? In the provinces, there are lots of rich families that have money sleeping in the bank. That's an alternative. Find rich individuals, high net worth individuals that can be moved by your cause. And they can have more negotiable terms. Because they care, they're not doing it professionally, and if you're talking to a 500 millionaire to 1 billion person, then that's just peanut money to him. And if he or she likes your mission, then that's a potential opportunity. So I'm just sharing the alternatives. And lastly, crowdfunding law has been approved, the Philippines. So that's a very good channel where you can just try to crowdfund some loan structure. You're not selling equity. And the only responsibility that you have as a company is make sure that how are you going to make it back? How are you going to sustain? So all of these options, you're not selling out shares.
Thank you, JC. So I agree with JC. Just